Representative DeGraaf.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Director Toor, just going to the carbon capture. As you know, I'm not a big fan. The best way to do that is solar power via plants, since they do that quite well. But what are the actual goals that your greenhouse reduction emission goals to get to that scale? What is that actual goal of reduction? And then I have a follow-on question based on that, what the actual goal is.
Director Toor.
Thank you for that question. So the legislature has adopted several bills going back to 2019 and most recently updated in Senate Bill 23016 that set statewide targets for economy-wide greenhouse gas emissions reduction. Those targets include a 50% reduction below a 2005 level by 2030 and net zero emissions by 2050. Currently, we are on a trajectory to, if not to certainly come extremely close to the 2030 targets, but there is substantial additional work that will be required to achieve those 2050 targets. And that's where we think that both carbon capture from industrial facilities as well as carbon dioxide removal may play an important role.
Representative DeGraaf.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chair. So if I go with the, from I think a previous presentation where you said that Colorado generates approximately, I think it was 0.125 billion tons per year, and there's 3,200 billion tons in the atmosphere, then what I get if we achieve the actual full-blown measure is a 0.00004 of whatever that would be. And if you multiply that by 40 degrees, you get 0.0004 degrees. So how much is it going to cost Colorado in general to achieve a potential reduction of 0.004 degrees?
Director Toor, would you like to take that one?
Well, thank you for the question. So a couple of sort of pieces of an answer to that. First, achieving substantial reductions in greenhouse gas emissions will require action across the globe. And I don't believe that anybody believes that Colorado acting by itself would be able to solve the problem of global climate change. That said, it will be impossible to solve the problem of global climate change without jurisdictions across the world and ranging, I think, from local and state governments to national governments, ultimately to coordinated international action to fully address the issue. That said, we think that there is great value to jurisdictions taking a leadership role here. And certainly the legislature, through the adoption of these targets, has directed state agencies to work on achieving these goals. But would also say that as we have moved forward with individual policies, almost all of those individual policies, the analysis has found significant net benefits for Colorado's economy. So there are a broad range of policies that range from this focus on carbon management to the focus on making it easier to build housing near where people have jobs and near where they need to be on a regular basis, to in advancing electric vehicles, to advancing cleaner electricity, and in essentially every case where there has been a economic analysis of those targets, what we've seen has been net economic benefits within the state of Colorado.
Thank you, Director Toor. Representative DeGraaf, I'm going to check and see if anyone else, because we're running out of time. I just want to see if anyone else on the committee has any other questions. Okay, Representative DeGraaf, this will probably be the last one.
Certainly. Director Toor, again, because let's just pretend that CO2 is 100% of the greenhouse gas effect, and we know it's only about 10%. The total amount is 40 degrees. Globally, if we get all of the world partners involved, we have about 35 billion tons out of 3,200 billion tons, which would be a total net benefit of 0.04 degrees Celsius. So I'll send you the math. So when we have what I'm seeing is that we are looking at the purpose of CO2 reduction is the purpose of CO2 reduction, and the purpose of CO2 reduction is population management and behavior modification. So, and at an incredible expense. So when we're looking at, so ultimately what I'm trying to find out for the last few years is what is the cost benefit analysis other than bolstering the climate superstition industry, because the total, if we look at the total of CO2 reduction, if you just look at straight percentages, you're looking at 0.04 degrees Celsius, not something that we can add up. And so all we're doing is, because I've got people that are asking me, it's like, what is the state going to achieve? How are we going to solve the climate crisis? And what I get is we are going to solve 0.04 degrees out of maybe 2.5 degrees Celsius, and they go, and for trillions of dollars, and they say that sounds like a colossal waste of money, to which I agree. So I'm just trying to get to the point where I can believe that there's some sort of benefit to the massive cost, other than telling people that you need to move your house, you need to ride the bus, which I notice nobody here does, and live in communal housing. So again, I'd like to be able to, and I've asked multiple times about some sort of cost benefit analysis, and it's still coming up. So again, 35 divided by 3,200 multiplied by 40 times 100% is 0.04 degrees, and that's all you're going to get. And that's just the basic math. So I'm just struggling here with what we're doing with Coloradans' money, other than forcing them into communal housing and communal transport.
Director Toor, would you like to respond?
Well, thank you for that question. And Representative DeGraaf, again, the way that these policies have been moved forward has been, in many cases, through regulatory processes that have required economic impact analysis, regulatory impact analysis, and cost-benefit analysis. And I know I have been able to provide that analysis on a number of the rules. In each case, what we saw were significant net benefits, economic benefits, not net costs to Coloradans, largely because many of the policies that reduce emissions also reduce energy costs, and those substantial energy cost savings provide really important benefits to affordability and livability in Colorado. Similarly, when it comes, for instance, to land use and housing, the approach that the state has taken has not focused on trying to force anybody into a particular style of living, but in fact has been the opposite, removing regulatory constraints that prevented the market from building housing. So, for instance, removing regulatory constraints on accessory dwelling units, removing regulatory constraints on multifamily housing along transit corridors, removing constraints on the ability of freely chosen individuals to decide who they want as their roommates. So I think we've been able to move in a direction that increases freedom, provides more market opportunities, and ultimately will lower housing costs compared to what they would otherwise have been for Coloradans, while also reducing emissions. And so across almost every policy arena that we've been working on has really focused on how do we meet the goals set by the legislature in ways that will improve livability and affordability for Coloradans.
Thank you very much to the Energy Office for presenting us the information. And if anybody on the committee has additional information, please reach out to the department. And that ding, folks, means that it's time for our next event. We have House Bill 1042. So